welcome to another episode of Untitled Artwork. This is episode number 4 of 0 to 1000, and we're going to talk about consistency.
I'd like to ask you both 2 questions. One, how often do you create artwork or creative work? Because Yoni, you do your film stuff as well. So just in general, in terms of trying to succeed in whatever media that you're doing, how often do you create?
It depends on the style, to be fair. I think that's key. If I'm doing a minimalistic style, then I could do one every day. If it's a bit more technical, then every few days, I would say. I don't like things to last me more than a couple of days, if I'm being honest, at most. But it's hard to say because a lot of the stuff, sometimes I spend 2 days on it and I'll just look at it after, so I'm like, this is shit.
Yeah.
2 days gone down the drain, do you know what I mean? But then I think once you nail a particular style, then you can speed up. But I would say every couple of days. In terms of what we're talking about, 0 to 1000, I think you need to be creating every couple of days just to keep it fresh in your mind, just to keep your skills ticking over. And obviously, once you start to produce a lot of content, the more you can start to put into your shop. So
you're talking about completing a new project every few days and releasing that into the ether.
Yeah, in terms of the artwork I do, as you can see, like the clock one behind me and the Kenny one there.
Shameless plug.
It's minimalist.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, but my point is it's minimalistic. So I'm only creating the character. There's no background. And that's kind of, in my experience, the ones with the least amount going on are the easiest to sell.
Yeah.
That's why I think you should try and do just the pieces that, we're talking from a basis of obviously like selling stuff to customers and putting it on their wall.
Yeah.
I think every couple of days, if you just keep doing it, is the best way to go, in my opinion.
What about you, Yoni?
I'd say I'm working on something creative almost every day. Like, I try not to, unless I'm taking a specific break, I try not to let it get too long without working on something creative. I think even if it's stuff that I don't finish or stuff that's like not intended to be seen or shared, like, it's always good to keep the creative juices flowing, to keep in that mindset, to keep getting better.
There's a couple of ways to look at it, isn't there? There's creating stuff like you said, Karl, to actually create a finished product and then present that product to the world. And then there's the other side of it, which, Yoni, just keep your hands sharp. Make sure you're keeping your skills sharp and creating every day. For me, creating every single day has to be done now, because I'm not full-time. I'm not a full-time artist.
Congratulations, by the way.
Nice one. But even just going back to when I was out working a full-time job, creating every single day, in my mind, has to be done. It just has to be done if you want to get where you want to be. Like, if you want to sell 1,000 of something, you need to be doing something that's progressing you towards that goal every day. And if you're not doing it every day, it's just too easy to, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next week, there's so many distractions, kids, job, hobbies, and if you're not consistent, the time it takes you to go from working full-time and having a hobby to making that hobby your full-time job or selling 1,000 of whatever it is, the time just going to keep growing and growing and growing.
Agreed.
So that consistency, and there's so many things to be consistent on as well. Like, there's the creative side, being consistent on social media as well. Like, how often do you use, I know you guys are on Twitter quite prolifically compared to me.
Yeah.
How often do you use social media? Are you on it every day? Are you on every platform every day?
Yeah, mine's daily, several times a day, probably several hundred times a day, if I'm being honest. In fact, if anything, I'm probably on it too much. But I don't just use it for my job. I don't always just use it in a creative sense. I use it for a personal sense, and just checking out what's going on in the world and seeing bits and pieces. But yeah, pretty much every day, because I think, as well as we've previously spoke about, is the algorithms on these things need you, that you need to interact with them for you to be relevant. And if you're gonna then not do anything and then post something to sell, then you're just gonna get no hits on it, because the app itself is just not interested in what you're doing, because you're not a regular enough user.
Yeah.
So there is that part of it.
Yoni, what about you?
I have not been posting as much as I would like to. I think that you do want to be consistent on there. I think that's probably the most important thing. But like, I feel like I could tell somebody how to do a really good job of running their social media accounts, but a lot of the times, like, I find I don't like the pressure of having to post on there. So
Yeah.
like, when I'm really, really busy, I sometimes just kind of steer away from it for a little while. But I mean, I do think that, especially during that first part of building up your follower base, building up your online presence, trying to develop your store, generate those sales, it is the right thing to do, is to just try and be consistent. And I don't think that means you need to feel the pressure of finishing a piece every day or every 2 days, but just figure out a way to get more content out of every piece that you make. Work in progress, do a time-lapse video once it's done, obviously share the final piece, and then always be aware of opportunities to reshare the same work. So if there's an event coming up, a celebrity or for sports person's birthday, all that kind of stuff, like, find ways to insert your artwork into the conversation so that you can get more than one post out of every piece that you produce.
And the content doesn't have to be perfect either. Just being like, I've made sales from posting a stickman on Twitter, and someone's gone, "Oh my god, this is going to be Gerrard in the FA Cup final 2006. Let me know when this is done. I'm going to buy it." Like,
yeah.
I think the challenge that people face now, which is slightly different to how we built our following, is that the algorithm's changed.
Yeah.
And especially with what they're doing with Instagram, how it's all more video related now, and images have just kind of just brushed to the side. And I've been posting for the last couple of weeks quite regularly, and I've noticed a massive drop off. I'm talking like hundreds drop off since they've implemented the new algorithm. So I think if you're gonna post content, as much as we can tell you the way to sort of do it, you kind of have to do your own research, because what we're telling you now may not be in 6 months' time. The algorithm might change. So I think it's important to understand the social media outlet that you're using to then be able to find the best way to promote what you're doing.
Yeah. And that's another thing you need to be consistent in, like trying to find what the best content is for each platform. When I'm posting stuff on social media and when I'm creating new artwork, I ask myself, is this content bringing me sales? Like, when I'm putting out work in progress shots, I get people DMing me saying, "When this is finished, can I buy this?" So I know that works, but sometimes I'll post stuff and it won't get any traction at all.
Yeah.
And if I just consistently keep posting that without getting any traction on it, like, how many times you have to post it before you realise this is a waste of time? Like, so you've got to be, I would be a bit more smarter. I've made this mistake so many times. It's where consistency can actually be counterproductive if you're doing the wrong things consistently.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Agreed.
If you're posting the same style of artwork every time, and it's just a new person in the same style, and there's no development, and you're just consistently putting out the same thing all the time. I mean, unless you've got a big following already, you might be okay, but I don't see. It's like, what's the definition of insanity, right? Like, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different things to happen. It's one of my favourite quotes, because you've got to be consistently learning what works, what doesn't work, what do people like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
couldn't agree more.
I think a way to get round it is look at what other people think, what things are working for other people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm constantly looking at to see how other people's posts do. Like, if we have someone like Dave Flanagan or Frank Kelly or whoever it is that posts art online, I'm always looking to see what response they got. One of the things I noticed last year was when Yoni was posting artwork on Twitter, he was posting the full length shot of it, and then he was posting a zoom shot of it, and I noticed he was getting so many likes, and I was like, I'm gonna try that, and it was instant. I seen an uptick in the response that I got.
I mean, there's no shame as well, and I think we probably discussed this on the last episode, is just to ask a big account for a retweet.
Yeah.
If it's on Twitter, just to get more eyes on your work, because there will be you'll post stuff and sometimes you won't get the traction you want, and it may not be down to anything you've done. You might have followed your steps and followed the rules that you do to post work.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, it could be in a game. Sometimes as we know, you should post at specific times, but if something big happens that you can't predict and then your post just gets completely lost, then I just think you should always ask a bigger account. I used to do it all the time when I was up and coming. I used to ask all the time, all the big, especially when it's LFC, I used to ask all the big LFC accounts to retweet, and some didn't. I didn't care, but the one or two that did just helped me get it out there a lot more. So yeah, there's no shame in doing that at all.
Yeah, and I think it's how many times you're gonna do it. Because some people will do it once and then they won't do it ever again. So it's like if you've got to say, right, I'm going to message 20 people this week and I'm going to ask them if they can share my artwork and I'm going to send them something for free, and then keep doing that week on week.
What's the worst that could happen? They just say no.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No biggie.
I mean, Yoni, you done that quite a lot the last 18 months.
Yeah, I always used to do that, and if people ask me now, I'll always share their work. I think, like Karl said, like it's a no-lose scenario, because the worst thing that happens is they just say no, and you're in exactly the same situation that you were in.
Yeah.
Best case scenario is they share your work. It's the first time they've seen it. You can develop a relationship there, and you can get more opportunities out of it. I think you need to look at how you can exploit social media best for you, rather than letting it just exploit you for content. I think that's one of the most important things, is like always try and remember that, like, in the social media dynamic, like, social media is about trying to get yourself a platform as a creator, and keeping that front of mind and remembering to always try and do anything you can to get hold of the most eyeballs on your work as possible.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no shame in it. Everybody's been at a position where they've been the smaller account asking a bigger account to share their work. But at the same time, like, the other side of that is, if they don't respond or they don't share it, like, you can't then like have this negative feeling towards them. They might not see it. They might not want to share it, and people are entitled to do that.
Yeah.
I think that's the other side of it. Is, I think always just keep your attitude towards social media positive, even if, like, you're getting negativity thrown at you. Keep it positive, but don't be afraid to ask people to help you out.
The one thing I've also noticed as well, having a big following, is that sometimes tweets don't pop up on my timeline, even my mentions. It happens all the time, and people have tweeted me or whatever, then for some reason somebody's responded to that, and I'm like, but when I looked at my mentions, it was never there. So I don't know why it does it, but yeah. So you just going to what you're saying, is that if they ignore it or they don't retweet it, may be just because they're a big account, they get so many mentions, you can't. It doesn't always come up.
I get quite a lot of people message me and say, can you share this, and sometimes if it's okay artwork, I'll share it. But if it's your first piece of artwork that you've ever done, and like you've just opened an account, I'll probably not share it.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds bad to say, because I want artists to do well, but it comes back to consistency. Like, I want to see that someone's going to be consistent with it before I share it to 10,000 people. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you've got no
Yeah.
consistent track record of creating decent artwork, even if it's not that good, I'll share it. As long as you've got something to show other than one image.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's important to like go, where am I actually at artistically?
Yeah.
Like, you can't just go like, I made that mistake in the past, like when I first started out, and it probably didn't gain me any fans, but like not having a consistent record of art in my portfolio and then asking someone to share one piece, just that's not the way to get sales, certainly for me.
Yeah, there has to be a reason to why they want you to share it as well. It can't be just like I've drawn this, and I want you to retweet it to your followers just so everybody can see what I've. Do you know what I mean? There needs to be like some sort of reason. So if someone did a sort of, alright, this is where I started. Here's a first image I did, and I redid the image 6 to 9 months later, a year later, and these are the 2 comparisons of my progression. And then yes, cool. It's great because you wanna share that. But I always feel that there should be a reason. I'd only ever ask people to retweet stuff because I want to make sales, and they've got the bigger audience to be able to put more eyes on what I'm doing. Yeah. Nobody has to buy it, but it just gets me out there. But sometimes when you ask people to retweet a piece that's got no purpose, if that makes sense, it's kind of hard because you're like, okay, I'm retweeting it, but why am I retweeting it?
Yeah.
That's it, isn't it? Just how you approach someone in that situation. Like every time, even now, if I reach out to someone, people can see I've done this for years. Yeah. Like I've been doing this for years. So they're like, okay, we might want to share your work, but if you've not got that behind you, you're not going to do too well.
I think if it's the first time you're speaking to someone as well, like, take the message that you're writing to ask them seriously. Like, if you're just randomly dropping into the inbox of someone who's got a boatload of followers and you're just saying like, hi, could you DM this, could you retweet this for me please? Why would they? Like, give them a little bit of a spiel, like, try and sell yourself a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm looking for feedback, or I just want to see where I'm at my progression. Could you retweet it, just whatever, and even have that in your message that you want retweeted. Then cool. I'm sure people will be more open to it.
Going back to the consistency part of it, I think it's difficult to sit here and say like, oh, be consistent every day if you want to get, but if you want to get to 1,000 sales, if you want to get to 500 sales, if it's something that you just do and hit and miss, it's not gonna land. And I think reaching out to people, like I said, there's so many things you need to be consistent in. You need to constantly reach out to people. You need to constantly be creating, constantly sharing on social media, constantly giving stuff away for free. There's like 10 things that you need to do consistently to make those sales. But what I wanted to ask you is, how can someone keep that consistency if they've got a full-time job or other commitments like kids?
Any spare time you ever get, that was for when I had my job and when my son was born. Any spare hours in the day. I mean, I would stay up to stupid o'clock. I'd get home, I'd spend time with the family from work. I'd work in the evenings. First thing in the morning before I go to work, I'd get up before everybody else, spend a little bit of time doing stuff. And there was even a point where I was going to my job and I was taking my laptop with me, and when I had lunch, I would go off to the lunchroom and just be creating artwork, because I just wanted to consistently make myself better. In terms of that wasn't necessarily the reason why I wanted to make sales, because obviously that I kind of went down that path. Once I had established myself, that was the path I'd chosen to go down. But just to be consistent, I just wanted to consistently get better. I wanted to every month, I think I wanted to look back at a piece of artwork and say, wow, this one's better than that one, and then go on another month, this one is better than that one. Or I would look back at a piece of artwork and I think it's really good. What did I do on that piece that even a year down the line I still love it? How can I recreate that, or how can I use what I've learned to do it now, and the only way honestly to do it is, I know people think there's a magic wand, there isn't. It's just practice, and it does. You know, even if you've only got a little bit of time, you just need to keep practicing, and it might take you a little bit longer to get there, but eventually you should get to a stage where you're happy with what you're producing. And yeah, it's tough. It is tough when you've got other commitments. Real life gets in the way, but you just have to practice, keep practicing. In any spare moment you get, you just need to focus. I think that's the most important thing. That's the best advice I could ever give anyone.
I suppose it's what the end goal is for you as well, because I know you just alluded to the fact that I just wanted to get better every day, but that's in the sort of the micro elements of it. In the bigger picture sense, you wanted to make artwork your career, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And the only way I could do that was to be comfortable with what I'm producing, and the only way I could be comfortable with what I was producing was to get better by doing every day or every time I get a spare moment is just to practice. And the reason when I say comfortable in what I'm doing is I would compare myself to what other people are doing, and I think we all do. I just don't. I think even now, naturally, you'll look at somebody else's art and you'll be like, wow. And then I would want to not recreate their piece, but I would want to get to a point where I looked at my artwork and said, okay, you know what? I'm actually good at what I'm doing. And the only way you ever get there is again to practice. And then once I was comfortable and I knew that, then I thought to myself, actually, you know what? I could make a career out of this. You know, once you get the decent, if there's feedback is everything. I think once you see how you can love a piece. How many pieces have you ever loved, and then you put it out there and you've just seen a tumbleweed go across, and you're just like, okay, maybe it wasn't as good as I thought it was. So you live off the feedback of what people give you.
So do you think you became more consistent the more positive feedback you got?
Oh, without doubt.
So once you're seeing like, oh, I can actually make sales here.
Yeah, you know, I never thought of, you know, when there's optimal times to post tweets and stuff during the day. You know, people before they go to work because they're all on their phones, and I never used to think of that. And then there'd be times I would put something out at 1 o'clock in the morning, and by the time I'd woken up, it had like blown up, but it wasn't an optimal time, and I just wanted to go straight back onto my computer and start the next piece. But obviously I had to go to work, which is unfortunate. But yeah, that was the passion, is just the feedback you got from people. It really drives you.
Yeah. Yours is a bit of a different situation, Yoni, isn't it? Because you've sort of gone to so many different avenues of selling. Like you're almost service based rather than product based now.
I think trying to keep it as universal as possible, just coming back to what your original question to Karl was, I think if you've got a full-time job or you're, you know, kind of keeping a lot of different plates spinning, I think a lot of people, you always need to accept that if you want to be successful kind of within a creative space, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. You know, if you've got a full-time job, if you've got a family, if you've got kids, like Karl said, it is about finding those extra hours in a day, you know, staying up late, getting up early, making more out of your day, because
you want it.
Nobody's going to hand you these opportunities. You know, you have to put in all the graft that you can. So I think that's the way to be consistent, even if you don't feel like you've got the time to do it every day. Make the time. You know, don't see your mates, don't play on your PlayStation, don't watch a film, like, you know, do some art. I think that's the only thing you can do, is like, you know, especially at the start, is like sacrifice everything else until
but people hear that and go,
you've got that space.
I'm not giving up Netflix.
Yeah, but then you don't want it enough.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, exactly. Then there's somebody that wants it more, and they'll make it instead of you.
Yeah, that
you know, there is always somebody hungrier, harder working just over your shoulder.
Yeah,
100%.
And if people don't want to give that up, then you have to lower your expectation.
Yeah.
Don't like, you know, if you want to get to that goal, you're not going to get there as quick if you don't give up those things. And there's no saying that you can't get there if you're doing it over a period of 2 to 3 years. But if you want a quick progression in your skill set, you have to give it those things. It's like a footballer at training, isn't it? You have to go training every single day. They do it every single day so they can get to the top level.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same for us. You have to find all the little hours in the day and train as much as possible your skills, and that's the only way you'll get there quick enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes back to I love a quote on this podcast, as you know, but don't complain about the results you don't have because of the work you didn't do. Do you know what I mean? It's just that's exactly what it is. If you want to sell 1,000 things, if you want, you might not want to, but if you want to make being creative your full-time job, like right now the position I'm in, perfect example of what we're talking about. So I've had quite a few conversations because I've gone full-time on being an artist, being a whatever it is that we're doing, company director, art director, whatever it is. I've gone full-time now doing what I want to do for me job, and I had loads of conversations leading up to the last day with people that were asking me how can I do this, how can I get to that point, and it's like, okay, what do you want? Do you want to do that? Do you want to do it full-time? Yeah, okay, then why are you watching Love Island?
Yeah.
Like, I honestly, I had 4 or 5 conversations with people a couple of weeks ago, and the whole conversation was, well, I want to do this, but I haven't really got the time. But then I see them tweeting about Love Island, and I'm like, do you know what I'm doing when you're watching Love Island? Art.
Watching it too.
No, artwork. Do you know what I'm doing when you're watching a series? I'm doing content for artwork. All that time you're spending, if that time isn't spent doing what you want to do for a living, then you're not going to get there. Well, if you are, you're going to be, it's going to take you years. Years and years and years. And people are like, oh, I don't want to give up those things because I like them. Yeah. Fucking hell, Love Island's enjoyable. It's it's drama, it's exciting. It's easy to get hooked in, but do you know what's better? Getting up in the morning and not having to go and sit in an office that I fucking hate.
Fucking right. That is the best thing ever.
That is better to me than sitting there and watching Love Island. It just...
Then you can watch as many Love Islands you want when you do that.
But that's it. The grind doesn't stop, does it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like to get to the point where I'm at now and where used to have been in the past, I had to work 2 to 3 hours every single night for 3 years. Yeah. Maybe not at weekends. I had my weekends to myself mostly, but I was still creating, just not as prolifically. But every weeknight, I was doing 2 to 3 hours of social media, filming content, doing artwork itself. And if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be where I am. And it's like, it's so difficult for people to hear that and go, oh yeah, I won't have a life. Maybe you won't have a life for like a year or 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you won't have a life, but do you know, once you've got to that point and you can quit your job and you can go and be a success,
you're building your legacy,
then you can fucking do as much of that stuff as you want. Like, so it's just, if you're not willing to be consistent and make consistent sacrifices, then I've got news for you. You're probably not gonna achieve what you want to achieve. I
think a lot of people just see what people post online and they never want to consider like the behind the scenes of it. They don't want to accept that, like, there are periods of time where I get up at 6, I sit down, I start drawing, I go to bed at midnight, which is when I finish drawing, and then I get up at 6 again and I start again. That is, and that's still what I do now, just like sometimes because I want a project to be as good as it can. And some people don't want to think about that. They just see you post on social media and they think, oh bloody hell, they've pulled that out of their arse. And it's like, no, if somebody's being successful, it's the result of loads of fucking hard work. Like, that is the first thing that everybody just needs to get on board with, is it's going to be a lot of hard work, and if it's not hard work, it probably won't be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other beautiful thing about this is as well is what you're learning is we're both freelance now. All three of us are freelance, and the difference is if for me it doesn't work out, and eventually because it's not easy. Let's not kid ourselves and say this is an easy path once you go freelance, because you're always searching for new jobs and whatever. But the one thing that pleases me more than anything is that if I have to go back and get a full-time job, I'll go get a full-time job as an artist. I don't have to go back to do what I did before.
Yeah.
I've got enough in the bank now to say, here's my portfolio. You're looking for an illustrator. You're looking for this. I can do X, Y, and Z. So if you need me on a 9 to 5 basis, it's fine. But I'm still creating.
Yeah.
I can step into that job as a creative rather than having to go back to a job doing something that had nothing to do with the creative sides. It's one of the hard facts of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Practice, practice, practice. Practice makes perfect,
And
as
like
they always say.
that's one of the main sort of messages as well that I tried to tell myself once I quit my job. I was like, my day now has got to be so consistent in terms of creating stuff, and I have 10 things every day that I write a list of that I need to do, and I think as long as I do those things, I don't need to worry about money. I don't need to worry about going and having to get another job again. But do the fucking work consistently. Like, and what are some tips to help people be consistent other than decide what you want to do and fucking do it? What are some, like, if someone's like, yeah, but I find it hard to do it, what are some of the things that you would advise people to do to be consistent?
I would say that you need to have a love for it. It needs to be your passion. Like, you can't, like, I like to do it, but I don't love it, because you won't achieve anything. And even if you like it, you need to force yourself to love it. That's the only way you can ever succeed. I personally, you need to love what you do to do it. To be able to do it in your own spare time as well. Like, you got to do something you love. That's part of the reason why we could all do it in the evenings and stuff, is because we've got a passion for it.
Yeah.
If you don't have a passion for it, then you're going to struggle to be able to do it in times, in your spare time and stuff. So I think that's one thing. If you need to ask yourself how much you're dedicated to doing this. Like, what is the real dedication? Do you just see that some people are successful and you want a part of that, or do you actually love what you do and you want to go along the journey and get to that point, just bettering yourself in this particular field,
or at least love the concept of it and the result that it yields. So
yeah.
If you want it to be a full-time job, you love the freedom it gives you to work from home and do it.
Yeah.
Loving some, because all of it isn't great. I don't like packaging things and putting them in envelopes.
No,
Like,
I mean, you've got to have an air of passion to it, though.
Yeah, you've got to love something about it.
Yeah, exactly. To drive.
Yeah, and that could be, you love the thought of your work being up in someone else's house.
Yeah.
You love the idea of sending your artwork all around the world, or like, I really just like the work. Like, I like sitting down and just being able to focus on something for a number of hours and letting the rest of the world fall away. But yeah, you have to find the things that you love about it and focusing on them, for sure.
One of my passions is to do a book cover, and in this day and age, it's they're becoming a thing of the past because everything's done online and stuff. But still, for me, that is one thing I'm passionate about. I'd love to just have my artwork on a book cover. That's a target of mine that I'd love to have, and it doesn't matter whether people stop using magazines or books or whatever in the future. It's just something I want to achieve, and that's one thing that drives me.
Before we finish up, what are your tips to help people remain consistent in making sales and growing the brand?
I guess my main tip would just be find ways to have little milestones. Try not to make them too big, because then if you don't feel like you're getting there, you won't ever be satisfied with what you're doing. So just have smaller milestones that you can cross off more easily. That might be just having a to-do list like you've got, Callie, but get those small victories lined up, because then you'll always feel happy with the progress that you're making, and you'll be able to more readily recognize it.
Yeah. What I'd probably add to that as well is make sure the milestones are in your control. So don't say a milestone, I want to get to 10,000 followers. That's not that's not a milestone that you can control. Like the milestone the milestone should be, I want to create 100 pieces of artwork, and hopefully by posting them, I'll hit that. My tips to remaining consistent are that have a clear vision of what you want and what you need to do at every stage. Like I said, the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I write a list of, I sort of reverse engineer my day. So I always say to myself, if I'm gonna make 10 sales today, what work do I need to do for that hypothetically to happen? If I want someone to buy a Solskjaer drawing, I need to draw Solskjaer. Do you know what I mean? Like, I need to draw Solskjaer, I need to do a reel, I need to do progress pics. If you just reverse engineer what the end goal is each day, it doesn't have to be a long-term goal. And then once it's written down, I will do those things on that list. If I've got 10 things on that list, before I go to sleep that night, I just don't negotiate with myself. Like, once it's on the list, I do those things, and that's it. Even if I'm up, like Yoni said, till 2 in the morning.
For context, Callie goes to bed at 10.
I go to bed at 10 o'clock every night. Every single day, there's a list. Like, and I don't skip a day. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise I don't get shit done. And even stuff as menial as UA podcast 12 p.m. Like, write down the little things that you need to do.
That is so menial. That is such a menial test.
But stuff that you don't, stuff that you don't think you need to be reminded of is what I'm trying to say. Like, gym, read, 1 hour on ukulele. Just to be consistent, the best tool I've ever used is writing.
It's all coming out now, isn't it?
I reckon we just need to rewind for a second here. Yeah. Callie, you spend an hour a day on the ukulele, do you?
I spend an hour a day while my tea is in the oven, and just when I'm doing stuff like that, playing the ukulele, because I'm trying to learn.
Are we gonna get a little?
Where's the ukulele? Go get it.
Do you want me to go and get it right now?
Oh yeah. Okay. Jezza, bring up that SpongeBob meme where it goes.
A few minutes later. A little longer than a few minutes later.
You just wait until we insist that Callie has to play us out.
Oh yes.
See, this will be minutes that I can cross off. What do you want me to play? I don't know. Is the sound okay?
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's great.
Right, I need to see. You're gonna have to move back so I can see the ukulele. Otherwise, I think you're just playing a track.
I'm not playing a track. That better?
Oh yeah.
I don't know whether my wire's in the way now. You know this one?
Yeah.
Oh. So I'm getting there. Consistently be better at that soon.
I'm very impressed. I won't lie.
This episode has really taken us to places we didn't expect to go.
But yeah, I'm getting better at it because I do it every single day.
Consistency.
So in like a month's time, I'll be able to play that with no mistakes.
that was very good, mate.
Yeah,
well done.
Nice one. But yeah, that's my tip.
I'll have a tip for you. Can you just oil your chair, please?
Oh man, I know. Can you just proper hear that?
WD-40.
I'll try and not.
Sounds
first,
like,
I thought you
sounds like Stephen Gerrard's poking his head round the door.
Yeah, of course. Hey, me and Gerard are mates. He might see this and do me in for taking the piss.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a subscriber to the channel.
So I want to finish on just one quote that I heard the other day.
Another one?
It was actually on a TikTok video. Is to be great, you just need to be consistently good. You don't need to be amazing every day. You just need to be consistently good to be great. So take that with you, and hopefully it's a bit of inspiration for your day.
Why'd you do a weird voice?
Was it? I don't know.